Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in the Italian city of Naples say that they recently received a report about an equally bizarre and terrifying mugging case after a Swiss tourist was robbed of his watch at gunpoint, only to have the item returned to him because it wasn't expensive enough. According to reports, the incident unfolded on the night of July 17th at the Monadi Cafe in Piazza Trieste e Trento. Just before midnight, as two Swiss tourists were enjoying some drinks at their table, their evening was suddenly interrupted when they were approached by an unknown man. Before either of the tourists could react, the man had pulled out a gun and pointed it at one of their heads. The unknown suspect then grabbed a hold of the tourist's watch and took it off his wrist, fleeing immediately after. The whole thing was over in a matter of seconds, or at least, that's what the victims thought. Just 7 minutes later, a second man, believed to be the initial thief's accomplice, walked up to the Swiss tourists and handed the watch back over. He then apologized, apparently saying that they had realized that the timepiece was not the luxury Richard Mille brand one that they had initially thought. According to reports, authentic Richard Mille watches sell for anywhere from tens of thousands of dollars to tens of millions. Authorities say that the thieves likely returned the watch because they felt that it wasn't worth the effort, and knew that the penalty for robbery would be lighter if they returned the stolen property in the event that they actually got caught. Though the crime was captured on the cafe's surveillance system, it's unclear if police have been able to identify the suspects or track them down. Authorities in the English county of Wiltshire say that a suspected drunk driver is facing a number of charges in connection with a bizarre vehicle collision case this week. One that allegedly started with him fleeing the scene of a crash and ended with him being attacked by a group of exotic birds. According to reports, the whole thing started off just after noon on July 25th, when residents in the town of Malmesbury witnessed two people driving recklessly in a pickup truck. The vehicle was seen careening all over the road before smashing into the front of a local shop. Though the business was thankfully empty at the time, the damage was quite extensive. The front of the pickup truck was completely destroyed, and the vehicle was partially embedded in the storefront. One of the people who witnessed the crash was a man named Dean Wade, the executive chef at the nearby Old Bell Hotel. Understandably concerned for the two people in the pickup truck, he immediately ran over to offer some help. That's when things reportedly took a wild turn. Before Wade could get to the crashed vehicle, both the driver and passenger got out and proceeded to take off running. Wade decided to chase them, making sure that they were not able to get away. The pursuit apparently lasted for roughly 15 minutes, until Wade and the driver reached the border of the Malmesbury Animal Sanctuary. That's when the driver made one last desperate bid to escape, and climbed into one of the sanctuary's fields. According to reports, the animal sanctuary cares for a wide variety of exotic animals, one variety of which happens to be emus. The field that the driver entered was their home. Understandably, the emus did not take kindly to the driver's presence in their field, and a group of them proceeded to peck at him. While it's not clear exactly how long the driver was delayed by the bird attack, roughly 20 minutes later, he and his passenger were both tracked down with the help of a police helicopter and arrested. The passenger was later released, while the driver, who was initially arrested on suspicion of drunk driving, has now been slapped with numerous charges, including failing to stop, dangerous driving, and causing actual bodily harm. At the time of this recording, the man has not been identified by name, but reportedly remains in custody. No emus were harmed as a result of the suspect going into the animal sanctuary. Authorities in the Swiss canton of Bern say that a man has now been charged in connection with the murder of a 31-year-old woman after her body was found submerged in a lake at the beginning of last year. According to reports, the case began in January of 2021 when a scuba diver swimming in Lake Thun stumbled across a woman's body near the municipality of Gunten. The woman's body had been weighed down by being strapped to nearly 90 pounds of weights. By putting out information about two of the victims' distinctive tattoos, authorities were able to identify her as Jasmin Probst, a 31-year-old DJ from Munchenstein, near the city of Basel. However, the circumstances that led up to Jasmin's death were still a mystery. That apparently changed recently when authorities concluded a more than year-long investigation, which reportedly led to the arrest of a 37-year-old male suspect. According to prosecutors, the man has claimed that Jasmin's death was an accident and that he disposed of her body after suffering an anxiety attack. However, investigators believe that the suspect deliberately strangled the 31-year-old after injuring her and drove her body to the lake after the fact to cover up the crime. While few other details have been released at the current time, the case is all the more heartbreaking when you consider reports from those who knew Jasmin, who say that she had always had a difficult life. Apparently, she was raised in multiple orphanages as a child and was struggling financially before her death. Still, she was described as a kind person and a passionate musician who made the most out of her situation. At the time of this recording, the suspect who has been charged with Jasmin's murder has not been identified by name. He reportedly remains in police custody. Authorities in the Australian state of New South Wales say that the partner of a missing 43-year-old mother and part-time model has been arrested this week following the tragic discovery of her remains. According to reports, the incident began on the morning of July 21st, when 37-year-old Vincent Carlino contacted police and told them that his partner, Shireen Kumar, was missing. He said that Shireen had left their home in the Sydney suburb of Dural the previous night, but had not returned. When police spoke to neighbors of the couple, they said that they had witnessed Carlino walking around on his property in the rain on the night of Shireen's disappearance. A short time later, they heard him speed off in his car. Others told police that Carlino had revealed that he and Shireen had argued before she went missing. 2 days later, on the evening of July 23rd, the case took a tragic turn when human remains were discovered in some bushland just under 3 kilometers from the couple's home. The remains were wrapped in plastic and were later confirmed to be those of Shireen Kumar. Police claim that they located the body using evidence found on Carlino's phone. Several hours after the discovery of the remains, the 37-year-old was arrested and charged with Shireen's murder. While few other details have been released about the case at the current time, some reports we came across say that there were signs of trouble in Shireen and Carlino's relationship well before the murder. One source stated that they had been, quote, on and off since April of last year, and that at one point Shireen had taken out an apprehended violence order against Carlino. However, they had since appeared to have reconciled and moved in together. Shireen reportedly leaves behind 2 children from a previous relationship who are ages 7 and 12. At the time of this recording, the situation is still developing. Authorities in the Brazilian state of Santa Catarina say that a 28-year-old man suspected of killing his wife and their 3-month-old baby is in custody this week after he led police on a chase covering 3 states. According to reports, the case began on July 25th, when the bodies of 23-year-old Jessica Ballack and her 3-month-old son were found inside their apartment in the city of Blumenau. Both had died of knife wounds, and the suspected murder weapon was recovered at the scene. Reports are a little fuzzy on the details about what happened next, but we know that at some point, Jessica's husband, 28-year-old Kelber Pereira, was taken into custody. However, it appears that he was subsequently released, because by the time that police attempted to arrest him again, he had fled the city. According to reports, Pereira first traveled to the state of Minas Gerais, where he dropped off his other young child with his parents before continuing to go on the run. He then traveled to multiple cities in the state of Sao Paulo, at some point changing out vehicles to allegedly throw police off of his trail. This was only temporarily successful, however, as Pereira was arrested on the night of July 26th. When Pereira was questioned by police about the double murder, he reportedly confessed, though said that he could not remember anything about the crime. He claimed his only recollection was of consuming drugs and alcohol before it happened. Beyond this, no motive has yet been established behind the tragic killings. At the time of this recording, Pereira reportedly remains in police custody. While many of us are probably guilty of doing something stupid to try and impress a romantic interest at one point or another in our lives, it appears that one Indian man recently took things to another level when he attempted to con his way into a military station in order to try and convince his girlfriend that he was in the Air Force. According to reports, the situation unfolded sometime on July 22nd when the man, identified only by the name Gaurav, tried to enter an Air Force station in Delhi. He was dressed in a fake uniform, apparently thinking this would be enough to fool personnel at the station into thinking he was an officer in the Indian Air Force. However, when Gaurav was stopped at the front gate and asked for ID, it was quickly obvious to the security personnel that he was a fraud. When he failed to answer even basic questions correctly, police were called, and Gaurav was placed under arrest. During questioning, Gaurav reportedly admitted to what he had done, saying that he had hoped he could gain access to the Air Force station to take some selfies while wearing his fake uniform. He said that he had hatched up the scheme in order to impress his girlfriend, who apparently, like everyone else, was easily able to tell that he was lying about being in the Indian Air Force. At the time of this recording, local police say that they are pursuing charges against Gaurav for his stunt, under at least 5 different sections of the Indian Penal Code. Authorities in the Philippines' Manila capital region say that 3 people are dead this week and at least 2 others are injured following a targeted shooting at a university graduation ceremony. According to reports, the incident took place sometime on July 24th on the campus of Ateneo de Manila University in Quezon City. The university is one of the most prestigious in the country, and as a result, there were several notable names amongst not only the scheduled speakers, but also amongst the attendees. One of these people was Rose Furagay, the former mayor of Lamitan, a city located in the country's far south. She was there to watch her daughter graduate from law school. Before the ceremony could start, however, tragedy struck when a man armed with 2 handguns began to shoot. Witnesses say that he specifically targeted Rose, shooting her and several others around her before trying to flee the scene. Though the suspect was injured in a shootout with campus security officers, he managed to jump into a stolen car and ram through a metal barrier. He was eventually arrested following a car chase. In the aftermath of the terrifying crime, police announced that 3 people had been killed: Rose Furagay, her executive assistant Victor Capistrano, and a campus security guard named Genevin Bandiala. Bandiala was reportedly among the security personnel involved in the shootout with the suspect. 2 other people were injured in the attack, including Rose's daughter. Though several of the reports we came across did not identify the shooter by name, some of the local sources we were able to find identified him as a man named Chow Tao Yumal. According to reports, Yumal claimed that he carried out the shooting because of Rose's corruption during her time as mayor, accusing her and her husband of being drug traffickers. However, authorities say that these allegations are baseless and that Yumal has a history of disputes with Rose going back years. At the time of this recording, Yumal has been charged with various offenses, including 3 counts of murder. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the Indonesian province of Central Java say that the search for a suspect who allegedly orchestrated a twisted murder-for-hire plot has come to an end this week, when he was found dead at his parents' home after apparently taking his own life. According to reports, the case began recently when the suspect, a second corporal in the Indonesian army identified only by the initials KM, allegedly hired 4 men to kill his wife, identified by the initials RW. KM offered the men 200 million Indonesian rupiah, or roughly $13,000 US, if they successfully carried out the hit, but said that he would pay $120 million, or about $8,000, if they even attempted the crime. On July 18th, RW had just returned home from picking up her and KM's daughter when two men on a motorcycle drove past her house. As they did, one of the men fired 4 shots at RW before speeding off. Though RW was hit, the gunshot wounds were not fatal, and she was stabilized after being rushed to the hospital. Likely knowing that it was only a matter of time before he was caught, KM began to orchestrate his getaway plan. As if the crime weren't awful enough already, he did this by turning to his mother-in-law and asking her for money. According to reports, KM arranged for 120 million Indonesian rupiah to be delivered to the hospital, which he told his mother-in-law was to pay for medical bills. In actuality, KM handed the cash over to the men who had just tried to murder her daughter. He then asked for a further 90 million in cash, or roughly $6,000, saying that the cost of the bills had gone up. When the money was delivered, he took it and promptly went on the run, though not before apparently telling the men that he had hired that they should try and take another shot at killing his wife. Luckily, police arrested all 4 men before they could carry out a second attempt. 2 had been on the motorcycle during the crime, while the other 2 had served as lookouts. Police continued their search for KM until July 28th, when he was found dead at his parents' home in the city of Kendal. Reports say that he took his own life by drinking poison. At the time of this recording, all 4 of the hitmen remain in police custody and have been charged with premeditated attempted murder. If convicted, the men could each be looking at up to 20 years in prison. That brings us to the end of this edition of Crimes of the Week International. If you're a fan of the new series, don't forget to tell us in the comments section below. While you're there, make sure to subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest videos. Thank you for watching.